Three mere mortals discover their ability to create entire universes with their minds alone. Upon discovering their abilities, these three, gods if you will, join forces to create the Dark and Stormy Nights, a supercharged team of creatives with the aim of helping artists and writers around the world while combating the forces of boredom and mundanity. They are the Dark and Stormy Nights.
Cryptozoological unit for neutralization and termination. Call C.U.N.T for all your paranormal extermination needs.
Yeah, can you help me? I've got a ghost in my story. So we are back with another episode of the Dark and Stormy Nights. Please pardon our cheesy intro. But I think that we've settled on a name for our paranormal investigating team.
It only took an hour and a half.
Yeah. So, and you too can be a cunt. And today Odin is our favorite cunt because he's starting up with our next piece of our story, right? You've got a little piece.
Chapter 2 after the page break, or chapter break rather.
Right. So, and we were going to tie that all together eventually, right?
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of our ending of chapter 2, and then we'll polish it up somewhere down the road.
Yeah, there might be an insert somewhere in the middle between these two halves. But...
And then a little tail off section at the end.
And we're even considering the notion of flip-flopping a few chapters, but all that'll matter once this
flexibility, my friends. Flexibility.
Right now,
right.
We're just...
it.
Yeah, rough drafting the outline.
That's why I think we finally decided that the season's going to be called the Rough Draft.
Right.
You know, so that's right. You wanna read us this chapter?
Sure.
We're all excited.
Ronald scowled internally as he plodded along the muddy path. He long ago abandoned the sound of scuffing footfalls on paver stones for the plopping of boot in heavy mud. Last night's rain dampened the stink of the farmsteads he walked past, but did little to alleviate his mood. What exactly did he say we are looking for? He asked Caleb irritably. He says we is looking for a pig of yay height, Caleb remarked while holding his hand at just above his knee, with 7 markings above his right ear in the shape of a wonky cross or a bird or some such nonsense. He withdrew a sheet of paper that was folded several times from his suit pocket and passed it to Ronald. Ronald returned his pocket watch to his vest pocket and took the sheet of paper. His scowl deepened as he looked at the image, for his mind was on the fact that he was far away from a pub or a bed, and it was not even 6 in the morning yet. I hate the country. Chin up, Bob. We'll be done soon enough. Who's Bob? Ronald asked, with a look of incredulity on his face. You is Bob. Or rather, that's your title. Caleb laughed internally at the growing confusion and anger in Ronald's face. See, the last guy that served the master did so for years. Years, Bob. Years. Then he got himself killed. Master can't be bothered to learn the various names and faces of those that would replace poor Robert. So, you're Bob. Just as it is. No use fighting it. That's a shit reason for not learning my name. It's Ronald, you know. Ron, don't care, Bob. No use learning it unless you stick around, and if you don't cock it all up, you'll still be Bob either way. Say I go wrong calling you Ron. Then it gets in my head that you're Ron when we is around the master, or refer to you as such, and master just looks at me like I grew 2 heads. Won't do, Bob. Bob you is to the end, I'm afraid. Caleb found it difficult to repress the amusement in his eyes and the smile that pulled at the edge of his lips. How long do you expect this to take? Ronald asked in an attempt to change subjects. Well, London is a big place. Lots of outlying boroughs, chock full of farms. Lots of people to feed and all. Could take a couple of days. Even so, no guarantee we didn't miss them somewheres. How do you know it ain't already dead? Maybe on a butcher rack somewhere downtown. Nah, Master would know. I asked the same thing already. Said he'd feel that. Something about a lot of energy and all. They walked on in silence for a while as they approached a farmstead. It wasn't long before they found themselves leaning on a wooden fenced pen containing a half-dozen pigs. Some of the pigs were curious and approached, but most were rather disinterested. I counted that one already, Bob. What about the one on the left? Can't tell, it keeps moving on me. Well, get in there, Bob. Caleb noted the lack of enthusiasm on Ronald's end. Your trousers are already buggered anyways. Go on now. It was with a hand on the crossbeam and a leg swung over that the farmer called out to Ronald, Hey now, she's mine, you know. Caleb began walking towards the farmer as Ronald returned to the less muddy side of the fence. Fair enough. We were just inspecting which one we might want to purchase. Sure you is. Something wrong with your eyes, gentlemen? Or perhaps you wanted a more hands-on experience? The farmer jeered. Mind you, I'm not judging your proclivities. I've been known to indulge in as much in my day. But fair's fair. Them there are my pigs. Right, Caleb drawled out slowly, weighing the implication. We are looking for a pig with a certain mark about its ear is all. You calling me a poacher now? The farmer asked, anger growing in his voice. No, my good man, Caleb said as he drew close to the farmer. My master wishes to find a pig that could replace the one he lost. You know, before the missus notices. I'd be willing to part with £5 for it. Have a look then, boys, the farmer said as he drew a pipe from his pocket and began to pack it. Caleb looked at Ronald and gestured with a nod of his head that he should get in. No sooner than he got in that the pigs began to squeal and run about. One tried to gore Robert's ankle with a small tusk as it ran past, and he promptly fell in the muck. Caleb calmly removed his bowler and set it on the fence post as he vaulted the fence. It took 45 minutes to develop a strategy of pinning a pig between the two of them and inspecting the ear, not to mention becoming familiar enough with them to know if they had counted that one already or not. Caleb paid the farmer £1 for his troubles, as none fit the bill, but had difficulty passing him the note through the violent gesticulations of the intense guffawing. The walk from the farmer was slow, as they were cold and thick with mud from chin to boot. Nor did it get better from there. It was well into the evening before they called it quits and headed back to the city for a liquid meal. 53 farms, hundreds of pigs, and nothing, Ronald said as he slammed an empty pint onto the table. Maybe we ought to go back to that farm you torched. That wasn't our fault exactly, Caleb said, looking Ronald in the eyes over the pint he raised. He took a heavy draw of his pint and stared at the ceiling, mulling it over. Yeah, all right. Why not at this point, eh? It was well after dark before they reached the Miller farmstead. The mud was dry and cracked on their clothing, occasionally flaking off in large sheets. The farmer was sitting on the porch and eyed them suspiciously from under a broad-brimmed hat. Evening, Mr. Miller, Caleb called out as he approached the man's porch. Evening, the farmer replied in an even tone. We are looking to purchase a pig. Heard you might have some. Heard wrong. All my animals were in that barn, he said as he pointed a long finger towards the burnt husk of what once was a barn. Most animals ran off or burnt up. Those I found I sold. Giving up the life I am. No kids, so no point continuing this enterprise. The disappointment on Ronald's face was palpable. Now don't you fret, nonsense. I had it all insured. I'll be just fine, just fine. Who did you sell the pig to? Caleb inquired. Who said I had just one? Who said it lived and I sold it? Hold on now. You two wouldn't be those Barney twats in the robes, would you? Perhaps you best move along, he said as he stood up out of his rocker. What if we were? Ronald inquired. Caleb balled his left fist and swung downward and behind him into Ronald's testicles to quiet him. What my compatriot and his aching bullocks are trying to say is if we were such dangerous types, perhaps it would be best if you told us what we needed to know unless your house is also duly insured. I gave it away to get the freaks off my property, and I'll tell you freely for the same reason. 2 lads and ladies, one short and bearded, the other tall and dressed fine. Couldn't tell you much more than that. about them as my attentions were elsewhere. From the shock of it all, Caleb asked. Sure. That and the lady's prodigious teats. Placed out like a pie for sale, so they were. And their name, he said, with impatience barely restrained in his voice. Don't know. Know where they lived before you ask. But I can tell you they were city folk, no doubt about that. If I find out you were holding out on me, I'll be back, Caleb threatened with a violent thrust of his finger towards the poor farmer. You'll find an empty house then, the farmer said, while gripping the rail of his porch and spitting into his yard. Caleb turned and began walking back to the city. We need to find these meddling cunts before they inconvenience us further. Master won't like this one bit, Ronald said with a sigh. I imagine not. Glad it's your job to keep him so well informed. Caleb all but chuckled. End scene.
Okay, the only thing I gotta say that I didn't really think about before, or what have you, is that certainly would not silence Ronald to be punched in the balls. I don't think he would go silent there. I think there'd definitely be some kind of noise.
You get grazed just right, like you miss a catch on a football, and it just glances through, and that stomach pain, it just goes right on up to your esophagus. I mean, it just creeps.
Okay. I guess, yeah. Maybe it's caught in his throat.
Besides, I mean, Caleb's a big dude.
Okay, you might dare not retort, but okay, I guess so. So, all right, from here, right, we have to kind of tie the first and second half of that chapter together, and we have to tail end it. But we're just going to polish that later.
You have to polish chapters 1 and 2, yeah.
Okay. But from this, then we're going to go on to. You want to move right into chapter 3?
Chapter 3. We need to put it all together.
All right. I know we talked about this a little bit.
Quite a bit.
But we I think a few changes need to be made, and if it's going to stay chapter 3, I think we need to change the beginning of it, right? Because it can't possibly happen both right after chapter 1 and simultaneously to chapter 2, because those two things are not the same. So we either need to move the chapter back or delay time a little bit.
Well, it doesn't always have to follow in the same temporal order.
I think it's confusing when it does it a little bit, and I realize I'm not Quentin Tarantino, so I'm not writing all the fuck over the place, personally.
Well, here's the thing: is that bringing Dale into the house, his chapter doesn't have to start from the moment he walks in the door necessarily.
Yeah, we talked about something like this, and I don't mind the idea. I'm not super good at writing the time lapse or what have you. But it does make sense that they bring Dale home. Dale is an animal, and we've all had probably a dog or a cat or something. It takes a little while to acclimate to its new home.
Oh, yes.
And especially, if Dale is as smart as many pigs are, it may know the life of a pig, where at any given moment you would be made into bacon.
Also, being indoors is a little weird for it.
Sure, yeah, it's used to
Not
a barn
only
or whatever.
that, but like
family
generally
and friends.
when you bring a new, let's say, puppy into your house, do you give it free rein first day?
No, you tend to pen it in.
That's
you pen
true.
it in for a day or a couple of days to make sure you can trust the creature before you let it out.
But
to chew
these
up all
are
your
city
stuff.
folk, so they may not be very familiar with how to raise a pig,
Right.
let alone any. I mean, none of them had pets before this.
I mean, an old Victorian house probably has doors.
Have we established
all
that
the
there's a cat
rooms.
or anything else in this household?
I
No.
was going to ask that. Did we want to put a cat somewhere in here?
I mean, I could see Meredith having one.
Yeah, I think, though, it does occur to me, too, though, that it may be a come-and-go cat. It's adopted the house, not the other way around,
It'd be now indoor-outdoor.
Yeah, it'll come in. They might feed it when it shows
What's the
up.
purpose of the cat?
Well, I don't know.
It keeps vermin away, and
Yeah, a
people
lot of
enjoy the
people-
company of cats. I mean,
Especially in those days, there's
You guys are just determined to kill a possum.
rats
Is
everywhere.
that what this is?
So, I mean,
I would not take on a possum if I was a cat. Those things are huge.
they're mean as hell, too. But
You might hiss at it, but you don't fight that thing.
okay, it doesn't really matter, I guess, and especially if it's this come and go Tomcat character, it's there when it needs to be and it's not when it doesn't.
Right,
You know?
right.
But so certainly, there's going to be, I think, a little bit of time lapse as Dale gets used to the house, right? So there's going to be a little bit of looking out the window and whatever. And,
maybe maybe the chapter starts with Dale's first day of freedom. He got a bath. They're letting him roam the house now.
okay, so we're not starting with them getting in the door and arguing and everything. Because I think that if we did that, the crew would be arguing as they walked in the door. But we'll skip all that.
You know what? Not necessarily. I mean, do you think it's important to the story to do it? Because there's nothing saying they can't flip-flop it and go right into Dale's chapter and then do the previous chapter 2 with the villains as chapter 3.
Well, that's what I'm wondering is...
So we determine how important that scene is to the story.
Because, I mean, before they start looking for the pig, they're already doing interviews. That takes time. He put out an ad in the paper and stuff like that. If they walked in the house and put Dale down or whatever, and I think with the dysfunction of this group, they may very well have just set him down and walked their own separate ways.
That's true. I agree there.
You know?
So then we think that it's kind of important to put that in the story, and maybe we switch the 2 chapters.
Well, and especially if Dale's chapter is about showing the dysfunction of the group, and showing how individually they are excellent characters.
Well,
And
while we're
it's
still on
also-
Team Hero, it's still a different perspective and a different character. So
It
being
is.
a different chapter, I think, is okay if you wanted to make Pig Chapter 2 or Dale Chapter 2.
I think time-wise it makes the most sense.
It does make the most sense, and also it's going to be a big chapter for establishing normal.
Right, yeah. And that's
that's fair.
And kind of introducing the characters full breath, It's,
Because
Right,
really,
it's a-
Chapter 1 is start with action. Chapter 2, now we're establishing normality.
well, I think that chapter
also,
1 does show a little bit of the normality because
Sort
they
of, but
don't
in extreme
work
circumstances.
Right.
But you still don't know who
also,
these characters
I think
are.
that it's fine to do this because we already said we've already started framing out chapter 4 in the last time we recorded story.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that that's going to be a little bit about Bob 2 and Caleb and trying to get
Sure.
the pig and towards the end of that chapter where
Right,
it's going
and we
with-
kind of want to introduce the house.
So really,
right?
we're already going with our what are we calling the team? Our extermination team in
Well,
chapter.
you named them.
We did. Okay, so we're going with our extermination team in chapter 1 and in chapter 2 through Dale. And then for chapter 3, we're doing our villains, and then chapter 4 will also be villains. So we're still keeping a pattern.
Well, I think and technically, chapter 4 will be villains meet heroes, right? I mean,
Well, we could make 4 another hero chapter. I mean,
I don't
we don't
think
know.
that's necessary.
well, because
And
I thought weren't we talking about they try to go after Dale?
Yes.
Okay, that's what
And
I'm
then
saying.
chapter 5 is Wilhelm's.
I'm just saying,
chapter.
is if we wanted to, we could sandwich another hero chapter in between. I'm
I
not
think
sure
only if
what
it's
it'd be about.
necessary.
or-
I don't know that it's necessary.
I don't know that it's necessary.
My point
either.
is that if we move
I just meant for flow back and
if we
forth,
move the Caleb and Ronald chapter to after the Dale chapter, and then you go from that into the Caleb and Ronald try to get Dale, it's technically a split chapter. It's where both teams kind of clash, even though it's just small parts. Even if all it is Hammond, Dale, and Wilhelm or something like that, and then Caleb and Ronald trying to get the pig. I mean, it's a partial clash of both teams.
It is. The teams are going to
So
face each other. For
well, yeah,
the first
whether they
time.
really know what's going from here.
And we said Jennifer is going to figure out who has and how serious this is.
Right. Yeah.
That Meredith is a part of this or whatnot.
I guess if the narrative
Oh, is that what we're
focus,
saying? Yeah, that makes sense.
if the narrative focus is not necessarily hero or villain, but it's Caleb and Desmond as 2 different point of views, then having separate chapters is justifiable, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like Vader and Palpatine are separate points of views.
No, but I'm just saying is that I wouldn't want to do villain as a block, but if the point of view is unique enough that they almost have separate motivations and they're almost their own story, then I think a separate chapter
Yeah, I think it's
is
a completely
justifiable.
separate scene,
Well, it's
It is
yes.
a scene. It's back at villain headquarters.
But I mean more than that. Instead of just being disposable, funny characters, they actually have their own motivations and whatever.
Right. And
Sure,
I feel like
yeah,
we
we
need
gotta
to
show that
start.
too.
So
maybe
that they
piecing-
become a recurring thing is what I'm saying.
I think at that point maybe we need to start piecing in some of Desmond's backstory as well.
Okay.
Into chapter 4. But we're working on chapter 3 this week, right?
Yeah, so we wanted to try and block out.
Well, 3 that'll become 2, but yes.
Maybe. Well, I mean, well, yeah, okay.
Right,
Are we going with that?
I think we go with
I'm
it.
okay with
It feels
it.
like it flows better. I don't see any reason to not do it.
Okay.
There's no need to be so strict with alternating good guys, bad guys.
Or
good guys,
this is
bad
all
guys.
subject to change before publication.
Obviously.
Just letting the audience know.
Rough draft still.
Right, well, the whole season is called Rough Draft. So, okay, I'll tell you what. Let's come back after this, and we'll discuss how we're going to block this chapter out.
Sure.
Are you scared? You should be. Ooh, gave me a chill. It's the dark and stormy nights, baby.
Okay.
Okay, so in the beginning of chapter 2, I see the team coming in. They're arguing. They're still continuing the argument from chapter 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going to outline Dale as chapter 2 rather than chapter 3, they're continuing the argument. So this is linear progression.
Right. You're kind of a change of scenery into the house now.
Right. So, right, yeah. So they're entering the brownstone, or
Right.
whatever we're calling it. And I see everybody but Meredith and the pig arguing.
Yeah.
Meredith is just tuning in at this point. I think she's humming a tune, and she floats up the steps and goes to her room and completely ignores the rest of them.
She take the pig with her?
No, I think she sets it down on the ground in the living room, and then just...
Okay. Well, if that's the case, I think everyone is too busy with their own whatever and arguments that they completely forget the pigs in the middle.
I agree. I think that Dale's watching this whole thing, and he's probably upset and nervous. I'm sure we've all seen puppies and stuff get upset when their owners are being
I mean, it's also entirely
frantic.
possible that Zara's still holding the pig while they have this argument. Like, doesn't even think to set him down yet.
Well, I was thinking, like,
I
at
saw
some
Meredith
point, he
hearing-
smells something in the kitchen and runs off.
This pig is covered in blood. I don't see Meredith.
That's
carrying
true, yeah,
him.
she wouldn't get dirty. You're right.
Yeah, that's out of character.
Okay.
Zara would.
Zara's holding him in the first chapter.
Zara's clad in leather, so I mean,
Right,
her
it
stuff
doesn't stain.
you wipe it off, right?
Yeah.
So, so they're arguing. Meredith goes upstairs, and then you have Zara, Wilhelm, and Hammond basically tossing blame around between the three of them.
Right, and maybe there's miscommunication in there too. Like, they don't communicate well. So maybe, Zara's yelling at Wilhelm for setting up this job, and he's kind of thinking, "What the hell are you talking about? I didn't set this job up,"
Okay.
So there's and then there's confusion about who did it, because we did mention, I don't know how much we've talked really about Meredith's husband regarding the show, but we did mention that he's no longer with them, but yet still interfering with job postings.
Well, that's interesting. So what you could do with that is, if they're all doing like, well, if you didn't set up the job and I didn't set up the job, who set up the job? And they all come to the conclusion it must have been Meredith.
Because she's left the room.
Right. And then, like, one of them's like, wants to rip into her and like starts going upstairs and like, her husband just died. Leave her be.
Well, I think it's more than that, though. It's her house. It's her money. Are you really going to bite the hand that feeds you?
And not to mention,
And
Meredith's
she
the
is
most deadly
dangerous,
one on the
right.
team. No one's going to face her.
And
Right, but I could see someone starting that. And so just expositionally, we have that bit of conversation, right? And
I think Hammond's the only one dumb enough to actually attempt
well,
it.
there you go. Yeah, I see him hot-headed, emotional.
Well, yeah, I hate to say
More
dumb.
on the surface.
He's really smart, but
Insanely
yeah,
smart. But
socially
also,
stupid.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, maybe he starts up the stairs and they're like, dude, don't.
Right, yeah. Like, well, I see maybe Wilhelm grabs him by the collar or something like that, and like, are you insane?
You know what? I feel like if anybody is going to...
Zara.
Yeah. I feel like if anybody's going to shield Meredith, it's going to be Zara.
Oh, I'm thinking that. See,
Or
I saw it the other way
restrain
around.
Hammond.
I thought I saw Wilhelm as protecting Hammond from himself.
Oh, I
You know what I'm
see.
saying? Like, yeah, because he pulls him down the steps. Like, Hammond gets 3 steps up, and he pulls him back down. Are you insane?
Yeah.
You know, like,
It's a matter of
I'm doing the
semantics.
hand motions so that everybody at home can see it through.
But I think it's more in
Podcast.
To be
character.
honest, I think that Hammond storming off after Meredith, like he's going to say something, would just tick Zara off even more.
See, I think it's more in character for both of them.
Lazaro
If-
might be. Don't you walk away while we're talking?
Right. If Wilhelm, with his long legs, steps ahead of him and blocks his path, while Zara grabs him by the back of the jacket. It's more in character for both of them.
Yeah,
He's
that'd be
more
hard
likely
write
to
that little scenario
interpose.
because you're right. I think that maybe it would almost be Zara and Wilhelm acting
Boxing him in.
concert for two different
Two different
reasons.
reasons.
See, Wilhelm's
right.
being non-violent, but blocking, where Zara is doing more hands-on.
I don't think he would have grabbed him by the collar in a violent way. I just
No,
see
but
him-
you know what I'm saying. It's a physical action, which
I know it's not the most in character for Wilhelm, but it's not completely out of
No,
character.
no.
Like I said, especially if he sees it as the guy's about to walk off a cliff scenario.
Sure.
And that is definitely what you're doing, mouthing off to Meredith.
Right. I also don't feel like this is like immediately after Robert's death either. Like
No,
I feel
no,
like
no.
there's a small amount of time there. Maybe not, years, but
I don't even think it's been 6 months.
I think
Maybe
it's
6
definitely
months.
after the will reading.
Okay, well, that's not a lot of
the
time
thing.
to
Weeks,
deal.
maybe.
Okay.
Weeks, maybe.
So
Yeah,
there's
so
some
she's still hurting.
But this is some backstory that we haven't really discussed. I think in the podcast.
Yeah, were we going to do this as backflash or?
Yeah, I think that it'll come up over time, but the basic idea is that there had to have been time since Robert's death that the team came together. So, there's months in there before they finally, and we're kind of seeing them, okay, they've come together as a team, they have this job now as exterminators,
Ooh.
and they're still clumsy together.
Okay, we had talked in the past about this bulletin board, and I think it was on the podcast. I think we have covered this. I could
Philip gave it to them.
The job board.
But Loki had said that he liked the idea of it being some kind of mechanized,
Actually,
device.
Tyr said that. I don't
was it?
mind it
I'm
being
sorry.
mechanized, but
Okay, well,
Well,
What
you
a-
had said we
what
needed
a
more
depressing
machinery,
reminder.
And I said cogs on the job board.
yeah. What a depressing reminder if Robert was still on there,
okay, like
because
a more,
it's built in.
yeah, so it's more.
You can't take him
well,
out.
Yeah,
That won't work in the timeline though. If you're really wanting it to be from Philip.
yeah.
The team wasn't put together before
yeah, it
Robert
wouldn't
was
have been.
gone.
It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
there. There's probably other somber reminders of Robert.
I'm just yeah.
Okay, but now that we're doing the Dale chapter, I think that we really need to point out the fact that Robert has passed at this point. He's gone, but he's still interfering.
Well, that's the thing. Dale doesn't know that.
Dale doesn't understand that he's gone, but Dale can see him.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So Dale thinks that there's another person in the house that just doesn't seem to interact with everybody else.
Right.
He
and
doesn't.
he's the person posting jobs.
Right, and doing various
Operating
other
the job board.
things. But yeah, so that said, that's going to be hard, I think, to explain. Does Dale understand what he's seeing? How do we? I know this chapter. While it's following the point of view of Dale, it is still not first person. It is third person.
Right.
So it's just a full description of what he's seeing, regardless of what he's
Right.
absorbing, I suppose.
Right.
So he would see, Robert interacting with the job board, giving these people jobs, not understanding why or what's going on, really.
I don't think there needs to be a full reveal at this point.
No,
to
I
the
guess
reader.
it doesn't.
I think that Dale observing the characters all yelling at each other over, well, you're the one who put us on this job, and they're like, no, I didn't.
Okay.
So there's that communication
Well, you're still
issue there.
That's a question, though. So he's probably
They're
seeing
making assumptions,
the team
and
arguing.
he's seeing Robert operating the job board, posting jobs, and that causing fights. And they're like, quit leaving me these notes, quit posting these jobs for me. Why don't you take a job? And there's this argument going on because Dale is observing something going on, and the team is not. You're seeing that miscommunication.
Yeah, I think
there.
I think the reader would get this pretty quickly because there's 2 guys in the description and there's 3 in this house, and that third one matches a description of someone who died earlier in the story.
But they didn't. No, he didn't die in the story. He died before the story.
The story takes place.
I thought in the first chapter we didn't.
Well, I
describe
think
that.
technically it's prelude, right?
What? It would be before the story takes place. No, we talked about doing a flashback
Oh, that's right.
about how Zara had known Robert and how Zara felt that she failed him.
Oh, I thought that whole warehouse scene was in the first chapter.
No.
Nonetheless, yeah. I think that that Dale is going to see this whole thing where Zara and Wilhelm and Hammond are arguing. Meredith is wandering upstairs, and Robert is not interacting with anybody. But he's there, and maybe distressed of what this is all causing.
You know what you could even do is when the team comes in and they're arguing, he sees Robert, touch Meredith or
Yeah, maybe she pauses
or
for a
brush
minute,
past
like
her, or-
she would pause for a moment, almost as if she could feel something. But
right. So maybe he
Blows it off.
observes the man who watches Meredith go up the stairs, who's not taking part in the argument. He observes some sort of interaction between Robert and Meredith where, maybe she doesn't really interact with him, but he interacts with her.
Well,
And
I
in
think
a
one
moment-
gift. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, in a moment later, Wilhelm's fine and storms off to his room and slams the door, and he's done. And then I think Zara and Hammond may argue for a moment, and Zara finally, you know what? I need a bath.
If we want to tip our hands to the characters themselves, we had discussed the notion that maybe Meredith has an indoor-outdoor cat. If the cat and Dale both are staring off in a corner of a wall, as any pet owner
Well,
has seen,
I felt Dale
especially a
could
cat.
see him because Dale has
Dale's magic.
magic.
Yes, well, cats are always assumed
So,
to be.
well, that is a question. So, yes, cats are often assumed in a lot of folklore or whatever to be innately mystical. I think it's just because they're assholes, but they may be.
They're usually
innately
just
mystical,
staring at paint
whatever.
drips and crap on the wall that
So,
drives them nuts. Things that are uneven. But yeah, if for story purposes, we could say if you got two pets staring at the same non-interesting part of wall, maybe the other characters stop their argument and all look over and like, what are they looking at?
is there a fly?
You know what I'm saying? Like, you could slowly tip your hand this way if that's what.
Well,
if we
what
wanted
would
to,
really tip it
like,
off is
reveal
they're
it.
looking at the job board, and everybody's looking at them like they're looking
I
at the
don't-
job board funny, and then suddenly it goes ding.
I don't see how staring at anything is going to work because your chapter is Dale.
No, I didn't say at this point.
Oh.
I'm saying further down the line, if we want to do that kind of reveal,
Yeah,
that could
I
be a
think
way
that
of
they
handling
slowly need to start piecing things together.
Right.
Dale's the only one going, I don't know why they don't know. It's this dude who's changing
Right.
the job board.
Right. Now, the question, though, is then if it's simply because he's magical, or is maybe because of the amount of magic that's in him or something, because then why else? Why can't Wilhelm see it? Because Wilhelm also...
I think it's the
Because,
type of magic.
well, there is a good reason. Wilhelm is not at peace with himself. He is not a native werewolf yet. He's fighting it. He's trying to hold on to his humanity.
I mean, in general, like, lore, there is a difference between a shifter and a magic user.
Okay.
Yeah, Dale would definitely.
I suppose
be
fair
able to
enough
see it.
explanation. Okay, so we got to the part, they wrap up their argument, right? Zara goes off to take her bath, Wilhelm to his study, bedroom, whatever, and then Hammond starts to rifle through the house, scavenging things, essentially stealing from his housemates for parts.
Okay.
To, because he keeps tinkering, he's building things, right? Because that's Hammond, always an idea to make something. But I think what attracts Dale first, right? The first thing that Dale is attracted to, of course, is food.
Oh,
so the first thing he probably does is smell the chocolates that Wilhelm is eating, and maybe wanders into Wilhelm's room. And Wilhelm's, say, drinking a glass of wine, nibbling on some chocolates, and then it lures Dale. And I think that Wilhelm doesn't necessarily always say everything that he means to say, and so I think that Dale is a refreshing outlet, right? Dale walks in the room. He isn't going to tell anybody anything he says.
Sure.
And I think he picks him up and he bribes him with chocolates while he sips at his wine, and he just vents, Especially seeing how I've always pictured that Wilhelm is versed in psychology and therapy and stuff like that.
But he's still very isolated.
Right.
He's gay. He's a werewolf. He's tall. He's educated. I mean, he's very removed from nearly everybody in society.
Absolutely. So what better therapist than a pig who can't talk?
Well, it's cathartic. I don't know if I call it therapy, but
Come on. It's exactly like, I don't know if you ever watched Lucifer or whatever like that, but he goes into his therapist, and he's always talking to his therapist.
Oh, God.
And then his therapist has some mildly revelatory thing, and then Lucifer turns it around and makes it his own therapy that somehow means something else. And
Well, he turns it around on everybody else because he's narcissistic.
Yeah, it's all about him, no
But
matter
I
what
think
the lesson
Wilhelm-
is supposed to be.
I think Wilhelm's not unlike this, right? So that, Dale doesn't even have to be able to say anything.
Sure.
He's just, it's almost like a sounding board. I'm
Yeah,
talking it
yeah,
out
yeah.
loud and everything like that. And it's like, you know what? You're right. Dale didn't say anything. It's just that he creates a revelation.
Well, you might snort a little, but it's like...
Right. Right. It's like, I need to be more like you. You're accepting that you're a pig. You know your lot in life and you're confident in it. And I don't know. I think the one-sided dialogue is difficult for me because I can see the two-sided dialogues or what have you. And we know damn well that Dale not only doesn't necessarily understand everything he's hearing, but doesn't care. Dale is just, okay, you're just feeding me chocolates. I'm here for the long haul.
Honestly,
as long as you got chocolates.
that's all that Dale's side of the conversation needs to be is...
What I was going to say is, this has nothing to do with story development right here. This has everything to do with the writing process, but I actually disagree with you strongly. Writing a two-person conversation or more is actually far more difficult. Because as a writer, you're trying to get an idea across. You're trying to tell a story. When you have two different people, you also have to keep track they're two separate people. They don't care about the story.
Okay, you're
they're
talking
living
about
different
voices and
lives.
stuff like that.
Wilhelm is only one voice. It's so easy to write.
It's a one-sided conversation with himself, I think. In
Yeah.
this one. And which will be different than later on. Once he gets bored, Wilhelm runs out of chocolates, right? And he goes looking for more chocolates. And in the meantime, Dale gets bored and wanders off, right?
Yeah, he's probably going to raid the pantry or
in
something.
the moment, Wilhelm knows is somehow he's already got a job up on the board. He can't even get like a night's rest or something.
There should be a bell or some sort of chime every time somebody puts that
Okay,
up.
so here's how you do it, I think.
Ding!
I think that you show Wilhelm in the bed, and he's, venting and getting out his frustrations, and, in between his thoughts and his sentences, it's just Dale. Okay, you're so close. Just hand it to me. Just give me that piece of chocolate. It's like right there. And then, and then Wilhelm has another sentence and he's like, chocolate. Just 1 inch closer, chocolate, and he's
Right.
like kind of like, and that's your
Like,
that's your
how do you do-
2-part conversation.
You ever have a pet that was like that? It's like you hear it grunting and
Yeah.
everything like that. Like your sandwich is so close.
Yeah.
Just drop it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what
exactly.
they're thinking.
Exactly. Quit gesturing with that chocolate and bring it here.
Right.
So I mean, the two-sided conversation is there. They're not on the same track, but it's two completely different.
Yeah. Well, it's not really a
chocolate.
They're both having conversations with themselves.
Exactly. Because Dale doesn't give a shit what he's saying.
Okay, that's interesting.
So Wilhelm's just kind of getting it out, and then you got to think like a pig man. Chocolate. And that's all he needs to say.
Right.
Closer.
I don't know, that's kind of fun. You have two people
Chocolates.
completely self-absorbed, acting as if they're in a conversation.
Dale is
Yeah.
so self-absorbed, but what do you expect?
But
You
on
know?
the other hand, Dale is focused, man. He is all in this conversation.
He is your friend as long as you have some food, man.
So I think that's fine. And then Wilhelm's like, yeah, okay, well, we're out. That was the last one. Let me go see what else is, And so, Wilhelm goes, and Dale's like, this is taking too long. And so Dale goes to explore, right? And he's in the main parlor, or whatever we're calling it.
Yeah, he wanders out of the
Right,
study.
right.
in the main
Oh, and the
parlor.
secretary's messing with the job board again. And then he sees the job board change, and then next thing you know, Wilhelm comes storming through, sees the job board, and starts, getting upset. Or Zara, or whoever it is. And,
Right.
And that's another clue into the fact that nobody else is seeing the secretary guy who keeps changing the job board,
I just had a horrific thought. People around the world could theoretically be tuning in. And if they are and they're English, I'm profoundly sorry. Because, yeah, my voice is... I try.
Oh, they were bad. Yeah, no, there's no doubt
Well,
there.
they weren't the worst.
No, you were almost unintelligible at parts, but that's okay.
I think
This
to
was-
the English it'd be horrific.
This was
but,
a read through.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
and it's fine. And
I am not a professional actor.
And when we go back through all this later, we will do a better job and maybe divvy up the voices.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do.
That's fine, but I cannot do an English accent.
But it'll be better next time.
Well, yeah, you know what? Neither could Prince of Thieves.
So I think that So Wilhelm, slightly buzzed, notices his job up on the board or whatever. Dale's wandering out of the room. Maybe sees the secretary, quote unquote, and then he follows some sounds or smells up the stairs, right, where he tries to get into one room where he hears some humming or singing or something like that, and he can't. And then I think he wanders into like Zara's bath. Like Zara's taking a bath, and he wanders in there, and she's a little upset at first. She's like, oh, it's just you, pig, and then tries to play it off like she doesn't care, and then she starts baby talking him like he's the cutest little thing ever, and and then her softer side comes out. You get to see what a softie she really is. I think that's and then of course he's eating her sandwich off the plate. That she's
She has a sandwich in the bath.
Who doesn't eat in the bath?
Okay, why doesn't he just eat her like oatmeal soap or something?
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
Did they do oatmeal soap back then? I don't know. Is that a thing?
Why not?
Although it could be normal
did,
soap,
like,
and a pig
milk-
would probably
they did,
eat
like,
it, right?
Well, it's at least a natural product, so why not? I assume
they do,
maybe it
milk
exists.
baths and stuff?
Maybe.
Goat milk soap?
Like he's lapping in the water.
We're gonna look up goat meal soap. Goat meal soap, and be right back.
Oatmeal.
Our merchandise brings all the boys to the yard. Go see why on our website at thedarkandstormynights.home.blog.
Okay, so he sees Zara do her thing. I think that he sees each person, right? So he goes
Right.
around, and I think he catches Hammond stealing from the team. This is normal for Hammond. Hammond has been stealing from everybody. He's
Well, I
using
mean, you're talking about like little widgets.
I don't think he sees it as bad. Yes, he's
A
taking,
compass here, a fork here.
Yeah, the underwire of somebody's bra,
the
bone
boning and
lining.
corset.
Yes, thank you. Things like that, because he sees them as just parts, and it's like, oh, well, they'll be better served in my devices.
Exactly.
But yeah, he gets to see each person do different things. He gets to see a couple of people get called into, it's like, oh, the jobs came up and they take their jobs or whatever. He sees them, I think, screw with each other's jobs a little bit by, I don't want to do one right now, I'm going to switch this out for so-and-so. Like maybe Zara had a date or something like that, and she didn't want to do the job that was on the board, so she gave it to somebody else.
Right.
And then, oh, well, Hammond, you got a job on the board,
Right. And then this whole time he keeps seeing that the jobs are coming from Robert.
Right.
That Robert is the one assigning them these jobs. And he sees their norm. They're going out and extinguishing the vampire hive and then coming home, covered in blood and gook and whatever it is.
Right. Occasionally carrying a cage of something.
Right.
Brownies and things of that
Right,
sort.
and that was something else we discussed was Hammond being careless with one of the cages.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. So I think there's a very scientific way to deal with some of these things, and we've discussed organizations that some of them can be donated to, and I think Wilhelm studies some of them.
As humanely as he can.
Some of these things never make it back.
A lot of them.
So
The vampires, they're exterminators. So the vampires, they're killing anything like super...
yeah,
bad.
anything too violent or too inhuman, right? Yeah, it's got to be taken care of. Anything they can be humane about, I think they try. And that's the thing, you're right. Hammond he's careless because I think Hammond's ego is so big he just thinks he's amazing, right? And so he can't do any wrong because
Right.
I also don't think
Even
Hammond has the
things-
same sensibilities about the virtue of keeping a brownie alive.
No, I don't think so either. I think he would easily throw it in a blender or something like that and not care.
If it was up to him, yeah.
No, but I think that Hammond also, while he
Yeah, it's
is
the rest of them.
insanely smart, he also, I don't even know how to say it.
He's arrogant.
Yeah, I mean, not just arrogant, but, like, he finds a way to turn everything that he does wrong into, oh, well, that's even better. Oh, I blew up half of the barn. Yes, but I got some of the bad guys, too. It's always kind of a, well, yeah, it didn't work quite the way I planned, but isn't this even better, kind of thing.
Right. Well, yeah, a strange sort of looking on the bright side.
Yeah, I failed to make a
as
good
long as
pesticide, but I did make a really good explosive.
Yeah, as long as it's to his benefit in some way, like
Yeah,
he's
or
always
he can
kind
spin
of,
it anyways,
Right, exactly.
But, yeah, I agree. And so I think that we really see that Hammond is probably one of the big problems in the party, in this chapter. By the end of it, we realize I think Hammond needs to kind of get his ego in check, or something for this all to work.
I disagree. I think Hammond is the obvious
Patsy.
loner, the one who doesn't reach out to others, who thinks he can stand on his
Okay,
own.
so maybe the
But
party needs to reach out to him.
They all do. He's just the most obvious about it.
Sure, yeah, no.
Yeah, I feel like him
Like-
and Zara are the two obvious
Like
ones.
Wilhelm
Yeah.
wants to reach out, but he's closed off. So he's emotionally
I think
available.
he's afraid of being exposed.
Right, right.
And while the party knows by now that he is a werewolf, there are these other facets of him that, while they probably know him, he's assuming they don't. I'm
Also-
sure
But
that...
if Hammond warmed up to people and that, yeah, he might enjoy company, but he could go the rest of his days without it. He doesn't need people.
But also these.
He spent enough alone,
These the moments of observation from Dale is a good time to see these character flaws.
Right.
To see how they all contribute to the incohesiveness of the. Is that the right word?
That's what I'm saying.
Of the team.
We definitely need to show in the dialogue, I think, that like Wilhelm has with Dale, that he is just dying for real connection.
Now, we know
He's
Meredith's
dying to be
closed off
accepted.
because, she's mourning. And, being the assassin badass that she is.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think Meredith will shed a tear in front of the rest of the team.
But why is Zara closed off? Is it her role as a woman in the day and age that we're living in, or?
Okay, so I think that for some of Zara's backstory, let me pull up her character bio.
Yeah,
here.
she had a rough life.
She had a rough childhood, and then she ran away.
Right. Well, yeah, she ran away from arranged marriage. Was that what it was?
Yes. So we said rough childhood. She ran away at 16. Homeless. She stumbled upon Robert, who protected her, fed her, trained her. She witnessed Robert's death and couldn't stop it, and it scared the hell out of her. So she's the one who actually went back to Meredith and explained to her what she saw and how Robert died. So that was kind of like the backstory for Zara, is that, yeah, we said maybe she was running away from an arranged marriage or something. She's an independent, strong, kind of
Right.
thing, and that wasn't really appreciated back in those days.
Well, I see. It's totally opposite how I originally viewed the characters, because based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like Meredith, aside from mourning, would be the more stable character of the two of them. Having a more balanced background,
Both
and more
lost the same person, but
right. But she had that rougher past and everything else, where Meredith
Zara
would have had
had
a
a
chance to
rough
grow
childhood.
up.
Well, okay. Well, we don't really have a solid backstory on Meredith. I think we all assume something really super badass or something like that, But with Meredith, she lost her husband. A
Right.
man she dearly loved.
Right. But if that wasn't the case, she'd be the more stable of the two.
So,
yeah, I mean, I think that Meredith has her shit together.
Okay,
I think
that's
that-
the
I don't think
opposite
she's
of
afraid
how I
of
first saw the
anything.
characters.
No, I don't think Meredith is afraid of anything.
No.
But I don't think that...
But Meredith's also not
I mean,
the
like,
one
emotionally
who,
mature.
Okay, but Meredith's also not the one who witnessed Robert's death.
Right.
And that's the thing, is that Robert was a very capable person. He was training Zara to be like him and Meredith. So she always felt like a very capable fighter as well, and a capable thief. And like he was what, a black market dealer is what we
Right,
said.
yeah, he was a black market dealer of arcane goods.
Right. So Zara had felt very capable too, until she stumbled upon something that even Robert couldn't take on. And she felt that she definitely couldn't fight it if Robert couldn't. So that kind of made her feel more vulnerable.
Right.
Whereas maybe she didn't feel that way before.
And giving her a bit of a mission. I mean...
Oh, Zara has purpose now.
Seeing supernatural of that level up close.
Yeah, and that's the point, is like that's kind of what gave them
it's like
purpose
the smoke
here.
monster from Lost, almost.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would actually
Oh, I didn't see
unseat her
Lost,
from
but-
reality to a certain degree. She'd be probably a little less connected and grounded in the
You know,
day-to-day.
it's a good. You make a good point. Is I think Zara might almost catalog all these things, like she wants to know what this all is. What is it that did what it did to Robert? You know
Yeah,
what I'm
this
saying?
is a life mission kind of thing, I think, at this point.
So I mean, yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is this is what gave her and Meredith purpose to bring in the team in the first place. When we said that Robert is the connection between all of these characters, even if they didn't come together until after his death.
Right, them and then some, but the others were
Right.
unavailable or what have you.
Right.
But that also means that Zara might well lash out disproportionate to the situation.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Look,
Like
Meredith.
she's overly aggressive.
Yeah, like maybe restraining Hammond or something.
Well-
That might go a little further than she intends. Pull a
Well,
little
this
too
is
hard.
what
things
I'm
like that.
saying. Is I feel like Zara would be the one who's protective of Meredith. I feel like she almost feels like she owes Meredith something because she couldn't protect Robert.
Yeah, like a older sister or aunt kind of figure, you know.
Again, I saw Zara as
figure or
the
whatever.
matron, and now I see it oppositely.
Oh, no, Meredith's the older. She's
I
definitely
know, no. That's
the,
what I'm saying is I think Zara sees her as the aunt figure or something like that she needs to protect. You know, where
even though Meredith is more than capable
Far more
of protecting
capable than
herself.
You know what I think threw me is that Zara's the warrior, the default, what I would assume is the leader of
Yes.
this group, and yet she's the most broken and damaged and removed. It's, if anything, she's the most juvenile emotionally.
I
at
feel
this
like
point.
they're all broken in the same place. They all lost Robert. They were all
Sure, but
they already had. I think all of them already had their fractures. You know,
Right.
before Robert died, and then Robert died, and they kind of fell apart in their own ways, you know,
Right.
and I don't necessarily think that Hammond and Wilhelm were completely broken by Robert, but there was a big
I
loss
agree.
to them. I think
He
that,
was a
that they were
friend.
already broken people, and
Yes.
this didn't help,
right.
you know.
Right.
And then Zara, it shattered her world.
Yes, it hurt Zara in more ways than one because not only did she lose her main mentor, but she also realized that she wasn't as invincible as she thought she was. So yeah, it kind of damaged her in a couple different ways. And now Meredith is definitely the mentor figure for her.
she might actually
But also
feel
she feels indebted to her because she couldn't save her husband.
she might feel inadequate to the task, like her training wasn't complete.
No, I think that's definitely true.
That is absolutely true. And that's kind of an inferiority, like a
Right.
weakness
So
that
we've
will,
got a lot to
will
show in this
show
chapter.
further on. And that's the
Well,
thing.
I don't know that you can, but
But no, we
but
definitely
you can
need to
start
lay
to
the
show
groundwork, yeah.
That's the thing that Zara won't want anybody to know, and Dale's going to see it.
Right.
Is that she has this weakness, she has this vulnerability, this insecurity.
Right.
Whereas she plays this badass, you know, and has this front for the whole team, where she acts like she's the one who's constantly going out and doing all these exterminations, and she's the one handling everything on her own, and you know, she's kind of the lone wolf doing all these jobs, you know, and not being, you know, a team player.
Well, that's interesting. Maybe we need to have her, you know, because we said that she talks to Dale for a moment when he's in the bathroom, right?
She
And-
can vent to him.
Well, I'm wondering if she's not
Break down and cry.
Well,
even.
I'm wondering if she's not venting to him about something, and Hammond is stealing from her in her room and overhearing the conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And then he kind of gets a little bit of this, you know, raw moment from Zara, and realizes that maybe he does need to open up or something like that with them. You know?
See, that's interesting, because I was actually thinking as this conversation was developing that it'd be interesting if Hammond and his engineering, whatever, you know, they tend to be removed a little. They're maybe not as social or whatever, but they have a way of being outside looking in, because they're not as close. He might actually perceive what she's going through at some point, where the whole time you would expect Wilhelm, being with a psychological background,
Yeah.
to see this, but he can't, because Wilhelm is too self-absorbed with his own problems that he fails to be there for everybody else when he's the most obvious person to do so.
What kind of
not
venting
bad.
do you want Zara to be doing from the tub that anybody's going to overhear?
Talking to Dale. Well, like I said, I think that
I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can lead them. I don't think I can keep safe.
Yeah, yeah, maybe
All
stuff
that.
like that.
Okay, but you know what? She would probably do it in an almost arrogant kind of way, like, you know, I'm the one who's handling all these jobs, blah, 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 blah. Having all these other people here is just more people for me to have to protect, or more people for me to have
Right.
to keep safe, or you know what I'm saying? Like, she's almost like, I should just do all this myself. I can't keep them safe and do these jobs too. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. Yeah.
like she's being arrogant about it, but you see that vulnerability in there a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think definitely we have to illustrate the frustration, but maybe even a little bit of the fear, you
Yeah.
know, in all that, because she's definitely afraid of what she saw.
She is.
Well,
maybe,
it could
maybe
follow it
he
up
sees
with-
her having nightmares and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. A little bit of night terror, or the kind of situation. But what I was going to say is what you were saying before with the whole. I'm losing the thread. where she's afraid to see some that she doesn't think she can protect everybody, that she can keep them all safe and be effective. She could also follow that up with, I can't lose anybody else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and maybe
for sure. That's a
maybe
good one.
definitely pointing at the fear, like, what if that thing is still out there? What
Well,
if
yeah,
that
I
thing,
can't stab a shadow.
Yeah, what if that thing comes for
Oh,
me?
that's definitely her big vulnerability, is that she doesn't think that she's capable of fighting whatever killed Robert.
Right.
And
yeah.
if she
She
can't,
doesn't-
they're not going to be able to.
Yeah,
What
she
is it?
doesn't have any idea
It's
how
only been
she
months,
could.
but sure, maybe it hasn't been seen in those.
Has she even
weeks
described
or
it to
months
anybody
or
else?
anything.
Would they even
I think
believe
she
her?
would have told Meredith everything.
And only Meredith.
Right,
But-
so nobody's
but
even prepared for this.
I think Meredith would have gone. That's the thing, is Wilhelm is a paranormal expert as far as I know. I mean, the most expert you could possibly get, I guess, in this
without
stuff, right?
actually being steeped in it.
Right.
Well, the thing
Like,
is
it's all
that
academic,
we
you know?
talked about how, because the team is kind of not very teamy.
Right, they're discombobulated. and
Right. So we
disjointed.
talked about how this team came together, and that was something that we said, was that it was the death of Robert and the fact that, they all had some kind of reason to want to look into this. Robert had kind of left them all with, with Wilhelm getting information and Hammond maybe creating something for
Yeah.
him or something like that.
Spring-loaded knife devices
Right.
and stuff like that.
And when it
Right.
came to be, and Robert died, and they're going through his contacts, and like, do you have any information? What were you working on for him? And let's find out what this was,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And right now they're kind of at a standstill because they can't find a shadow. And how
So-
do you fight a shadow, even if you did find it?
I think we dug a hole for ourselves.
You go after what
but it'll be
summons it.
definitely interesting to pull it all back together,
They
right?
don't know what summons it.
Because
Well, stuff like that has usually got someone behind it.
Oh, it did.
we started with a dysfunctional team we have to fix before this, before it's all over, right?
But not in this chapter. Do you
No,
remember?
no, of course not. But what I'm saying is, so we're pointing at
Which is probably what Will
this
would say.
This chapter is pointing at their dysfunctions, So from here out, we have to start fixing
Right.
those dysfunctions.
Right. This chapter is highlighting Normal.
Well-
Normal is a team that doesn't work.
Right.
Normal is them going out on individual jobs.
So it's a challenge.
Some of which they're taking Dale out with them on these jobs.
I don't think you fix it in this chapter,
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we point at the dysfunctions.
Right.
Yes.
And we have to start heading down the path to fixing
I
it.
think what fixes it is an end boss, some mid-level boss, where like it takes the team to take it on, and and they see
We
how.
already discussed this.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
And that's fine. But but it's more than just, I don't know. I think it is a little bit more than just, hey, let's come together to fix this one problem. They still have problems,
Well, yeah, I'm not saying
so
everything
what we
gets
talked
fixed.
about was that after. Okay, so Dale's chapter 2, and you're going to go through this whole thing, and then chapter 3 is going to be the one with the villains,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
then
so now-
Hiring and then hunting. Yeah.
chapter 4 is going to be more of figuring out that the magic is locked in Dale, and then going on to where at the end of the chapter they summon the Joroguma.
No. Remember, it's the one where they try to kidnap Dale from the house.
Well,
Yes.
wait. In
When
order to
Bob
do that,
fails, in the end they summon
Oh,
the
okay, yeah.
Joroguma.
So this is another two-part chapter where we
wait.
start out.
In order to do that, they have to take Dale out in the field for it to be detected,
Right.
which means
Which
they
is
have
gonna
to go on
start-
a hunting job.
So before the end of
Yes,
chapter
there's going to be
2...
multiple hunting jobs within Dale's chapter. He's going to see them going out individually. Then we talked about Hammond coming home and just dumping a cage with a brownie or something.
Right.
One of his inventions that doesn't quite work the way it's supposed to. The brownie gets loose.
Yeah, one of those humane traps with a broken door or
Right.
something.
He's like, oh crap, I better find that before Meredith finds it. And Dale helps him track it down. And he's like, hey, you're kind of a useful little bugger, aren't you? And they start taking Dale out on jobs.
Yeah, you know what? I think that it might occur to him, wait a minute, you guys are really good at smelling like mushrooms and stuff, right? Brownies kind of smell like mushrooms. And he's like, hey, pig, help you find this thing, And then, I think he does a really good job. I think he probably helps him find the brownie in no time. Problem's going to be
Right.
keeping him from chewing on it.
I mean, whatever. Whatever happens with the brownie happens with the brownie. But the point is, they realize that the pig can
brownie
help them.
breath.
The pig can help them track, and so they start taking Dale out on jobs.
I think almost immediately, yeah.
Yeah.
I think from there it's,
A little hard to take a paranormal group seriously when they show up with a pig.
I mean, it is what it is.
paranormal pig.
do they have a rope or like a harness? Do they get like a dog leash?
Well, actually, I felt like Meredith got him a cute little pink studded collar almost immediately. Because...
Okay, so that happens, and then we talked about... I'm not saying that the next chapter is going to be the Jorogumo chapter, but we said that Bob messes up the mission to break into the house to get Dale, right? And after they bring Bob back, and he's like, oh, just a scratch, and takes them back, Desmond ends up saying, you know what, you stand in the middle of the circle, and the chapter ends with the Jorogumo coming through and taking Bob.
Yes.
Okay, then we switch back to Wilhelm's chapter.
Don't forget, we got to promote a Bob.
Well, Bob
Yeah, but you aren't going to do
Bob's literally just died.
Right,
so
right. Yeah, it's going to take a day
next
or two.
Bob comes in the next villain chapter. So now we're back into Wilhelm's world, and Wilhelm is going to Shifters Anonymous, and that's where we're at for chapter 5. And Wilhelm starts to notice Shifters going missing.
Yes.
Now, at this point, Wilhelm...
Eventually, he takes Dale with him. Not in the first visit, but he does eventually
That's fine.
take
You're
Dale.
going to have to do probably a few meetings
Right.
within this chapter.
Well, in order to show anybody disappearing, yeah.
Well, you know, it's not bad that if
Exactly.
maybe in chapter 2 he mentions going to a meeting or something like that.
Lay some backstory. Okay, he
Yeah,
leaves.
that's good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, make a note of that.
Okay. Okay, so, and then in chapter 5, we're actually going to Shifters Anonymous. Wilhelm notices that some of the regulars are no longer showing up. At first he thinks, okay, well, these guys are moving on and I'm not. And then eventually, like, he starts to realize that nobody's heard from them. And when Philip stops showing up, then he's concerned. And he takes it to the team. After doing his own research and after interviewing some people or talking to, what did we say, prostitutes or whatever, who are talking about their jobs being stolen. And then we said, what, maybe Karen starts coming to the Shifters Anonymous meetings?
Well, I think that's
Well,
how
yeah, 'cause she
Karen
was
was
supposed to-
getting them, right? So I think that maybe Karen started coming before they started going missing, you think? Or maybe she's hitting a few different meetings?
You know, maybe we don't even need to bring it up, but he just happens to start talking to one of the other ladies at the Shifters Anonymous, and he says these meetings are getting kind of,
Sparse?
Yeah.
I see her approaching him, but yeah.
Well, it's the whole idea,
she could
right?
be flirting with him.
He's her target the whole time.
Right.
He is her target the whole time. So she's flirting with him maybe, and he starts mentioning, hey, have you seen, whoever so-and-so and so-and-so who usually are here? And no, haven't seen them,
Right.
They weren't delicious at all.
Right. So, so I think that at the point that Philip goes missing, that's when Wilhelm's like, I need to bring in help, and he tries to pull in the team. And even so, the team is not necessarily like all, with it on the first try. But I think that once Karen actually gets Wilhelm, that's when they're like, we better figure this shit out.
Yeah. So we're going to need to figure out how the team...
Right, so Wilhelm gets captured?
Yeah, Wilhelm's going to get captured
Yeah,
by Karen.
because-
Eventually, she's going to get frustrated when she can't target him, because the Jorogumo targets her men,
Right, but initially they're supposed to try to seduce, but when
Right.
she finds that Wilhelm's unseducible,
Right.
she goes for brute force.
Right.
Okay.
She's going to get frustrated, and she's going to take him because she doesn't want to fail.
Oh, that's right. We said, yeah, okay.
So, you know what we have to do, though? That day that she takes him, he has to have Dale with him. And Dale
Dale?
shows back up at the house with the leash on,
Right.
but no Wilhelm.
What's that, Lassie?
Well, I don't even think it's a matter of that. It's just, this is weird. I'm not even sure. Well, we do establish that he has a great sniffer. So maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the point when
He'd
something
be able
goes
to-
up on the job board.
Be interesting if all at once, bing, bing, bing.
Could be.
Okay. So this could be one of those missions where they're finally all being called together. That's good.
Yes.
I like that. Ah, that's good.
And this would be the tip-off. Wait a minute. We're all right here. That all happened at once.
Yeah, I like this. This is an interesting chapter. I like it.
Right. So there's kind of a lot going on in this chapter, but that's definitely, I think, when we start to pull together and say, the team needs to figure this shit out now, or Wilhelm's not going to make it.
Right, yeah. They can't let this go.
Right.
Something's going on.
Right, and they have to kind of swallow their pride and get over themselves and their arrogance.
So you know
and
what else?
They have to come together.
I think this also establishes that we need to establish Wilhelm's responsibility. That he's a very responsible. He would never have let just abandon Dale.
Right.
Well, yeah, I see him as a creature of habit, and that might be something to demonstrate in the Dale chapter.
Yeah,
is that he has his routines.
So, yeah. So I think we're going to have to. I'm going to definitely need both your help with the dialogue. I think to establish all these things because we have a lot of points to hit in one chapter.
Sure,
so
a lot of voices to voice, I guess.
Right, and to show not tell. We're going to need good reason for this dialogue to go the way it does.
Right.
So otherwise, it's just going to feel like it's exposition hidden in this.
See, but here's the thing: do people really not talk to their pets like they're people?
No, they definitely do.
I talk to my pets,
and I don't think that's problematic. I'm saying the way it's going to be worded is going to make all the difference.
Sure, because the thing is that everyone craps all over exposition, but you need it. You just need to disguise in such a fashion that no one notices it's exposition.
Right. It should make total sense.
Right.
And that's what we need to do. It's going to have to be written in such a way that it makes complete sense that he would have said those things to Dale. And same with all of them. Any of them who speak to Dale, what they say to him needs to make enough sense.
Sure.
So, all right. I think we have homework to do. What do you guys think? Do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, you forgot at the end of the chapter you wanted it to be the reveal for Dale, right?
Oh yeah, the last thing he does is the
Oh yes.
Maybe they're all back in the parlor arguing, and all of a sudden
a little hiccup and.
Well, that would be interesting if the stress level in Dale just reaches a crescendo from all the argument, all the chaos.
Think maybe the stress makes him do it?
Yeah,
right,
I think that's better than just a hiccup or a cough or something.
Well, I don't know what the trigger
Sneeze
is,
or
but we
whatever.
see what the magic actually did to Dale.
But yeah, like if he becomes so overwhelmed and he doesn't know what to do about it.
Or maybe they have a really successful mission together for once. At the end of this whole thing, they come together, have a little successful mission like they all thought as a team this one time, I think maybe they're all having drinks and they pour Dale a pint. Maybe he gets a little tipsy and...
You know what? It could be maybe the job board showed up with a big hive of vampires and they sent Dale running through the hive to scare all the vampires out. They all killed him. They came home. Everybody's alive. Sure, why not?
And then a little blip, and suddenly he's a little human.
He's human, yeah.
And then, I don't know, maybe right back, it doesn't really matter. But I think they're all, after knowing what they said or what they did in front of him.
Right, everything that's happened in front of Dale.
And then they all look at each other like, oh, shit.
Right.
Now, is he like a little cherub dude with a big tussle of blonde hair? Is he a balding, pot-bellied guy?
I'm imagining slightly Vern Troyer from Austin Powers with no clothes. So.
But no hair?
No, he's hairless in Austin Powers. Because he's mini-me.
That's what I'm asking.
He's a pig. I don't know. Maybe he's got a fine coating of, little white hair. I don't know. Who cares? I don't know. I haven't really thought him out yet. So
I don't know. I'm just seeing a
but I think
kind of 45-year-old Dennis the Menace.
I think his markings are the same, though. We were talking about the little moles in the shape of...
yeah, like he had like a freckle or mole kind of pattern of like...
Behind his ear.
I thought you said scarring.
It's some sort of modeling coloration in the skin.
It's technically magical scarring.
Although, in human form, maybe it's more of a wine stain.
Maybe. But, yeah, I think that'll be... And then, yeah, the collective... Oh, shit. Like, from everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that'd be interesting. If they didn't see him morph, and they stumble upon him, and it's only his coloration behind his ear, and you said he's bald, so that would be...
Oh, no, I think it's totally right in plain sight, right in front of everybody, like...
Because people would freak out if there's a naked guy curled up in the corner. It's the oh shit
moment. It's the I said that in front of him. I did that in front of him.
Yeah.
Is he human that turns into a pig or pig that turns into a human? Mm-hmm.
And all the more disturbing if he's squatting and taking a crap.
So taking a crap in the parlor
in human form. That'd be yeah.
Well, that's something to think about, guys. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks. Hey, thanks for listening. Check us out on Twitter at TheDarkStormyK1 and visit our webpage, thedarkandstormynights.home.